Hey gang, Uncle Todd here, along with Sonny. And tonight we're looking at a Spanish production, Horror Express, starring two of the greats from horror, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. Now, sadly, this was made soon after Cushing's wife passed away, and he wasn't sure he wanted to work or if he could work, but thanks to his great friendship with Christopher Lee, he helped him get through it. And this was basically the start of Peter Cushing's probably his most productive period, as he threw himself in one project after another to keep himself busy and not dwell on his wife's passing, who he was devoted to. The film also has another big name star in it, but we'll get to that one later. Right now, Christopher Lee plays Professor Saxon, who was in Manchuria in 1906 on an archaeological expedition and makes an amazing discovery. Yep. Quite possibly the missing link. Or maybe just a Neanderthal. But it is an amazing discovery. So, packing this back down the mountain, we get some fairly tame comedy with Saxon trying to get on the Orient Express, even though his ticket seems to be missing, and he meets his old friend Professor Wells, or Dr. Wells, Peter Cushing, who bribes his way onto the train. But luckily the military has decided to lend its support to Saxon, and this whole thing is brushed aside. And then a sneak thief tries to open the crate, and something mysterious happens.
With a hairpin.
A thief? But he was blind.
Blind? He could spot a policeman a mile away.
Yep. Somehow, the thief's eyes were turned completely white when he died. Oh, those are two characters that will have more to do with this film as it goes along. First is Father, how do you pronounce that name? Pejorative. And the other is Inspector Mirov. Now, Pejara is the spiritual guide to the Polish Count and Countess Petrovsky. Shades of Rasputin. Oddly enough, the character is played by Alberto de Mendoza. You would think, being an early 70s Spanish horror film, that would have gone with Paul Naschy. He'd have been natural for that role. Anyhow, they get the crate on, but not before Pejorative is convinced that Satan is in that crate. And to prove it, he draws a cross on the stone of the train platform, but his chalk will not write on the crate. Well, after the train is settled and everyone and it takes off. Wells is rather curious about what is in that crate and has a talk with the baggage man.
If someone were to drill a little hole in this crate during the night and take a look at what's inside, I'd be very grateful.
Well, since this is a train movie, we've got to have some extra characters for some subplots. One of which is the meeting between the Countess Petrovsky and Professor Saxon, and they are immediately smitten with each other. And who can blame her? It's Christopher Lee. And here we go again. And Professor Wells finds a rather attractive young stowaway in his cabin, and she begs him not to have her thrown off the train. She has to get to, I think, to Shanghai or Singapore. One of the two. Doesn't matter. And then, of course, it turns out that Wells and Saxon are sharing the room, or the cabin. Meanwhile, the baggage handler manages to manages to open the crate and is immediately killed with his eyes turning white. And the occupant does something rather amazing. Yep. Somehow, this creature that's hundreds of millions of years old knows how to pick a lock. How? We'll have to pay attention. They may tell us. Well, the baggage handler is found to be missing, and Inspector Muroff calls Wells and Saxon to the baggage car and demands they open the crate. Saxon, of course, refuses, and so Muroff orders it broken open. Well, with the specimen missing, a search is quickly made, and the creature kills several of the searchers. Meanwhile, Murov asks Wells to perform an autopsy on the baggage handler. And along with his assistant, Miss Jones, they make an interesting discovery.
Can you tell me how he died?
Smooth as a baby's bottom. You saw this man today and he was normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, his entire brain is smooth. Now, according to this film, all the wrinkles in the brain, that's our memories that we accumulate over time. Somehow, this man has been wiped clean. Perhaps that explains how the creature knew how to pick locks after killing the thief. No time for that now. The stowaway shows her true colors and what she's doing by going into the baggage compartment to steal the Countess's jewels that were locked in the safe. And runs into a bit of a problem. Yes, she meets an untimely end. And the creature tries to then take the jewels. Luckily, Miroff arrives to handle the situation. Miroff comes to a little later and seems a little off. It's also discovered that the jewels are not jewels.
Steel, harder than a diamond. That's why the spies are after it. French, German, English. But they're wasting their time. What really matters is the formula. And that, gentleman, is safe. Up here.
I'm sure that little bit of information will not cause his untimely end as well in this film. Well, while the espionage aspect is being discussed, Wells, Saxon, and Jones remove one of the Neanderthal's eyes and, taking fluid from it, examine it under a microscope.
Can you identify anything?
It's a brontosaurus. A pterodactyl.
Yep, it's that old theory of your eyes capturing images, and they're seeing what it saw before, right before its death. And examining another drop brings an even more startling discovery.
This is not a map. It can only be the Earth, seen from space.
That's right. This isn't a gothic horror flick. It's a gothic science fiction flick. They postulate this alien entity came to Earth millions of years ago. And it took possession. He's back again. And it took possession of a Neanderthal or whatever it is, and remained alive even after it died. Perhaps being frozen did it. They've also come to realize that it's killing people by absorbing all their information through the eyes. And that quite possibly it has transferred to someone else. Meanwhile, the priest, having been shown the slide, grabs the eye and runs off. And they begin to search for him. Miroff learns from Miss Jones that what they've been seeing in the eye. So he kills her the alien way. This is witnessed by the priest, who gives him the eye and pledges his undying loyalty to him, Satan. Miroff destroys the eye and then commits a couple more murders. He kills an engineer to get his information on vehicles and travels, as they had a brief discussion on the possibility of building a ship to go into outer space. And he needs that metal to build a ship. He also kills the conductor to keep him from sending any wires out that would cause any delay on the train. Postulating about the eyes, Wells and Saxon examine everyone's eyes. Cannot detect the creature. And then somehow, the Russian government has learned of these events. Maybe a scene got cut out. And they notify a Cossack captain to board the train at the next junction it hits and root out the villain. So now we get our third celebrity star here. Who do they go with? Perhaps Paul Naschy would play the Cossack captain. Perhaps Oliver Reed. He's a former Hammer alumnus of the other two. It has to be someone who will not get overshadowed by the powerhouse that is Cushing and Lee. Who could they go with?
We'll be here in exactly 14 minutes.
14 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor. That's what it says here.
Okay. I think they might have overcompensated. Savalas is a notorious scenery chewer. He dominates any role in any movie he's in, even if it's a bit part. Well, after he and his men board the train, he begins to chew the scenery big time.
Peasants!
Are you a countess?
I'm an American, and I'm not accustomed to being bullied by foreigners.
Killers, who? Who are the troublemakers? Who are the foreign influences, huh? Oh!
Don't worry. I'll smoke them out.
You English believe in free speech, don't you, huh?
Certainly. If instead of babbling nonsense, you'd investigate this property.
Oh, this is outrageous. Oh.
Mirov. Oh, Mirov. That's a good Russian name, Mirov. Tell me, Mirov, what do you know about all the filth that's going on here, huh?
Filth?
Oh, come on, Inspector. Certainly you know what I'm doing here, don't you? You just point out the suspects, and I promise you I'll get the truth out of them.
Wow. All that in just 5 minutes. Stole the whole movie right there. Anyhow, it's at this point, Wells and Saxon have come to realize that in order to discover who the alien is, they will need to get him in the dark. Then they can see the eyes. tough alien. Well, he manages to get away, along with a priest. As he's dying, the priest willingly allows himself to be a host. And so, once in a new body, the alien takes out the entire electrical system on the train and returns to the room for some payback. All the soldiers have been slaughtered. The passengers, being led by Wells and Saxon, who've managed to get a makeshift lantern going, gather everyone in the back of the train in the baggage compartment. Saxon then makes his way forward to get the Countess. But of course the alien gets there first.
He's dead. You killed him.
If you want to kill Buzardov, it's too late.
I see you hanged.
The poor monk. He loved you more than he loved the promise of heaven.
Luckily, Saxon arrives in time.
Who are you?
In words, it's difficult. I am a form of energy occupying this shell.
Where do you come from?
Another galaxy. I came with others like myself. I was left behind. An accident.
The alien appeals to Saxon's drive for scientific knowledge. But that doesn't dissuade him from wanting to kill the alien. So, he demonstrates a power that was not mentioned before. Yep, we have gone from a science fiction gothic film to a gothic zombie film. Well, now the Countess and Saxon have to fight their way to the baggage car. Loves zombies. They manage to make it back to the baggage car, where Wells has been waiting to decouple the car from the rest of the train, which he manages to do. And then, in a Deus Ex Machina moment, the next junction up the line gets a message from Moscow to derail the train, which they do. I know. She hates when the zombies get killed. Well, the last scene we get is the baggage car going right up to the edge of that cliff and then stopping so that we can get a nice close-up of Lee Cushing and the actress playing the Countess looking down with the knowledge they've saved the world. Although they themselves didn't do anything. It's so sad. I really like this film. It's but then again, I have a fondness for Spanish horror films. The Paul Naschy films, of course, and films like Night Orgy of the Vampires. The Hanging Woman, you know, they're neat. And of course, The Living Dead of Manchester, Morgue, which is a Spanish film set in England. And nobody actually goes to the Manchester Morgue, but yeah, that's another film for another day. But Lee and Cushing, they're in top form here, even though Cushing was going through a lot of emotional problems at the time, mourning his late wife. And of course, Savalas just chewed the scenery, stole his few scenes, and blew everyone else off the screen. And he is the most entertaining part of the film. But a lot of interesting twists here, where you got body jumping, aliens, a minor subplot about trying to get back off the Earth, and then there's the espionage, and it doesn't make a cohesive whole. But it's such a fast-paced film that it doesn't matter. You don't have time to think about anything. And when you've got like Lee and Cushing doing some of that great dialogue of their scientific explanations, yeah, you'll buy it. After all, they seem to believe it. Yeah, this is a public domain title that played a lot on TV. And of course, it's come out on many different versions on video. And as a 70s horror flick, it's a little different from most. I like how they mix in, you know, alien invasion and zombies and reanimated caveman and brain sucking and all kinds of craziness. And kind of a little nod to Murder on the Orient Express there. You know, they're on the Orient Express and the train going through the Winterland and a killer on board. Yeah, it's a fun little film. And highly recommended. Well, please hit like, share, subscribe, and stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
Next.
Thought this might come in handy.
Oh, good idea.
The two of you together, that's fine. But what if one of you is the monster?
Monster? They're British, you know.